Jesus Talks is more than just your average discussion. It's about transformation. Whether it's in your workplace, on your school campus, or just around the kitchen table. Every moment is an opportunity to invite Jesus in and to see him move. So let's shift our everyday conversations to reflect his love, his truth, and his power. Because the truth is, Jesus is speaking. And everything changes when
Jesus talks.
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 Jesus talks. Hey, welcome to the first ever podcast episode of the Jesus Talks podcast. I am your host. I'm Austin Lawrence. I kid you not, this is the most I don't know why it's so stressful to sit here and talk in front of a camera. It's literally nothing. I'm just talking about Jesus. So when I was thinking about what to talk about for the first episode, I kind of just thought, well, maybe I should introduce myself and then introduce what the podcast is about, because you know, you have to have a reason to want to listen to it. And so I guess I'll start off with myself. I'm Austin. I am 19 years old. I am about to turn 20 actually this month. And usually when you are talking about yourself, especially in the Christian sense, you always like to start out with a testimony. And what a testimony is it's just, an easy way to describe a testimony is take the first word that's called test. And a lot of the time it's something you've been through, or it's some kind of test or trial per se that we always talk about. And it's to glorify God. So something that's happened in your life that testifies or that tells people about the goodness of Jesus. My testimony, I've really been a Christian my entire life. I'm very thankful to have what we call a boring testimony. I never partook in drugs or alcohol or partying or any other thing that that a teenager my age would usually partake in. It's not something that I've done. I've never chosen that. I've grown up in the church. So I've been going to church ever since I was a baby. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was dedicated in the church. And I'll explain what that means in just a little bit. But I'm very thankful to have a boring testimony, because it just means that, to me, from what I've experienced, it just shows me that God has protected me up until this point, and I know that he will continue to protect me. But I just have a boring testimony. There's nothing that was astronomical, crazy, that I needed a deliverance from. I didn't have an addiction. I'm very quote unquote boring when it comes to a testimony, but that's not a bad thing. And I've never had a come back to Jesus, because I've never wanted to leave Jesus. I've known the Lord for my whole life, but it's not something that I would change. I would not change having a boring testimony, because no matter what kind of testimony it is, it's all a example and it's all a glorification of Jesus. It's all Jesus. Anything can point back to Jesus. Every moment is an opportunity to invite Jesus in and to see him move. Because the truth is, Jesus is speaking. And everything changes when
Jesus talks.
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 Jesus talks. my one testimony of what God protected me and saved me from. It was 2020. I think it was at the end, it was like December, Christmas of 2019, I believe it was. And I got really sick. I think I had flu A or flu B. But I remember I was in 8th grade, and now I'm a sophomore in college. So it's you can kind of see like the age gap there. But I was in 8th grade. And I just remember being in art class. And me and my friends were sitting around the table, and one of my best friends, they like tapped me on the back, and she was just playing around. She wasn't being like mean or anything. And I just felt so bad that day that I just was weeping. Like tears started flowing out of my eyes. And I just remember I wanted to go home. Like I just didn't feel good, and I just wanted to head home. So my dad came and got me. He had been home that day, and he made me, I believe it was a sausage and egg, like toast sandwich thing. And so I ate that, and I just remember it got so bad. Like normally when you have like the flu or you have some kind of like sickness, it's like, you're bad, and then you take some medicine, and then you maybe like drink ginger ale, Sprite, whatever it is, and then you get better over time. But I wasn't getting better. I was just kind of like, it was like slowly I was turning into a skeleton. Like you can obviously see I'm pretty skinny now, but I was skinnier than this. Like my face was sucking in. It was kind of like, I've grown, like I went like pale. And I just remember, like, to be very raw and very honest, I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. My stomach was in like crazy pain that I've never experienced before. Got so bad that I couldn't even like get up and use the restroom by myself. I had to be carried into the bathroom, and every time I would eat, it would be like projectile, like I would instantly throw it up, or I couldn't keep it down and I couldn't keep it in. And I tried to take medicine, and medicine wouldn't help. I tried to drink. All the human applications were failing. So everything that we tried to do was failing. My mom called the doctor, and the doctor's like, just stay away from dairy, do this, do that. And every day I just progressively got worse. And I remember the day that I went to the hospital, my grandma on my mom's side, my mom and papa were watching me. And then my grandma from my mom's side came down, and I ate, I think I had applesauce on the table or something. And I ate something and just, water hose, like just spewed it out. And that's when my grandma was like, you need to go to the hospital. So that's when my mom came home and got me, and we got in the car, and I think she was apologizing and, saying, I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. And it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just we didn't know what was wrong with me. We had no clue what was going on. And so we're in the car, and we went to one of the major cities in our state. Let's just say that, because I live in a small town. And we went to one of the hospitals there, and I got checked into the emergency room. I could barely walk, by the way. So I was kind of like walking hunched over, and we just didn't understand what this pain was coming from, because nothing was getting better. So, after that, I got checked into the emergency room, and the doctor came and checked in on me, and they gave me 2 drinks, I remember. One I thought was going to be a Sprite, and it was not a Sprite. It was some weird tasting water. Then the other, which I mean, we had to like time it. I remember like I couldn't drink it, and my mom was like, okay, let's do it like 30 seconds at a time. And I would sit and chug it for 30 seconds, and it was just nasty. But then the other one was, I think it was like an orange Gatorade. And this Gatorade, I mean, it was spicy, okay? This Gatorade was like burning my lips. That's how spicy it was. And I was drinking it. I was like, I don't want that. And so I just like shoved it away, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing it. As I was laying in the hospital room, finally, I guess they did some kind of scan. I drank the stuff, and it like made all the stuff in my stomach kind of light up to see what was going on in there. And once I drank it, finally, they came back, and they were saying that I'm going to need surgery immediately, because my appendix had ruptured.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks.
Jesus talks. Jesus talks.
So I went from the flu to not getting better to my appendix like just rupturing. And I looked it up and I thought it said like it was a 50% chance for, once it ruptures to like survive or to die. And the doctor was like, we need to rush you into emergency surgery because if it ruptures, I believe the stuff inside of the appendix, quote me if I'm wrong, is poisonous. And so if it gets like into your bloodstream or if it gets, because this happened to my aunt, it got into her bloodstream and like it's hard to like get out of your system. Like it can kill you, like it's quick. And so finally, I remember they asked if I was ready for surgery and we were just like, yes, I'll be fine. And my mom told me this, but I don't ever remember saying this. And a lady from my church said this too, and I don't remember it. She said, I remember you telling me, don't worry, because God's got it all under control. And what's crazy is even the fact that I didn't remember that, I still said it because it was something that is, it's normal for me to trust in God. It's been a second nature to me. That now there have been things in my life that have caused me to try and question it or to distrust God, but it's second nature to me that to know that God is going to work things for my good. So I'm in the hospital chair wheeling out, and I'm pretty sure I told my mom, I was like, God's got it. Like I wouldn't come this far for a little appendicitis to like kill me. We go to surgery, and I just remember being a little boy in that surgery room, like the prep area, and the nurse comes over and talks to us, and mom's with me because I didn't want her to leave. And I look at the nurse and I just said, I was basically just wondering one thing. I asked her and I said, am I going to die? It's the only thing that I could think to ask because I had never gone into surgery before. I've never been in the hospital before. I mean, maybe for like a checkup or like something like that, but never for a surgery. And so I just looked at her and I said, am I going to die? And she goes, oh no, we do surgeries like this all the time. You're perfectly safe. And I'm like, okay, I'm trusting you. See, just how we trust those doctors is how I was trusting God to, pull through this and help me with this because it's something that I'd never had to experience before. I remember, the only thing I remember from that surgery room was I was in the bed and they were pushing me through. And I remember the double doors that like the left side, I believe it opened, and then I like cut off, like I black out and I don't know what's happening. So after the surgery, I don't know how long it took, but my pastor and his whole family was there. One of my best friends, my mom was there, my aunt, my two grandparents, a lot of people were there waiting on me to get out of the surgery. And I finally get out, and the doctor tells us that this is how good God is, okay? The doctor tells us that they call it luck, but I know it's God's grace and God's mercy, is that when it ruptures usually are really bad because, the stuff that's inside of the appendix is poisonous and it can go anywhere in the body. But he said that when it ruptured, that the stuff didn't go everywhere and try to infect my body, that it had ruptured just in the right way, that the stuff that came out of my appendix had fell into a pocket in my stomach. It had fell into a pocket, like somewhere abdominally, I don't know where it is, but it had fallen in and it had just sat there and it was not moving at all. And so when you think about the goodness of Jesus, from what I got from that was, what was meant to destroy me, what was meant to kill me, quite literally kill me, could not move. It wasn't moving. It was as if God had allowed it to stay in one place and it was just holding it there, holding it back, kind of like the sea, pushing it back and not letting it move, not letting it attack in any way, shape, or form. To me, that just shows the goodness, the mercy of Jesus. that could have done anything. That could have gone into my bloodstream. It could have killed me. And it stayed in the pocket. Like, it didn't go anywhere. It bursted. They took out my appendix, and all they had to do was stick something into it and suction all the stuff out. And it was like as if it had never happened. And so that's quote unquote that's not a boring testimony. That's not a testimony of me coming back to Jesus, but it is a testimony of God's goodness. You know, just how good he is. And you could take that story and flip it 20 million ways and say how it could be by chance, it could be by luck. But when you learn to just surrender it and just say, thank you, Jesus. Because I could have died. And the fact that I'm here and able to like do things and do what God has called me to do, and, you know, the fact that I'm able to just still live for the Lord and give glory to him, my body is a breathing testimony that what the enemy may have meant for evil, you know, it ruptured and it was going to kill me. But what the enemy meant for evil, God didn't allow it to go anywhere. And so there's a Bible verse. I can't tell you exactly where it is off the top of my mind, but it's the weapon may be formed, but it shall not prosper. And so the weapon may be formed, which means, yeah, it might hurt you. It's going to be formed, and it might try to come against you, and it will come against you, and it will be formed against your life. And then there's a but, and that but kind of just slices the sentence in half, because it says the weapon may be formed. It says it may be. So it's something that could possibly happen. But when it says, but it shall not prosper, that means that there's no way for it to. That means God won't allow it to prosper. And so, with the appendicitis, the weapon was formed and it did attack my body, but it didn't prosper. It didn't kill me, and it wasn't allowed to move. So I think that was just crazy. I think that's a testimony of God's goodness, God's mercy, God's grace, of who he is. And, you know, it took me a minute to get back into the swing of things, because what's crazy is that January, I was out of school all of January. And then that March was when COVID happened. So like, you know, I came out of a crazy testimony. Like, people at school, my friends thought I had died. And I wasn't texting anybody because I wasn't on my phone. And then we go into the coronavirus and we're like, everything's shut down. So like, I'm coming into high school, you know, with a mask on. Like, I'm coming back. I came back in 8th grade, but it was only like 2 more months. And I looked like a skeleton. And then, you know, so all of that happened. And, you know, just the closeness of Jesus when it comes to COVID. I mean, we've all been through COVID, and if you guys want me to speak on that, I can certainly speak about it. But so that's my testimony. Really, I have a boring testimony. I don't have one that's like, you know, I needed to be rescued and saved from like sin, which, yes, I am sinful. Like, I've been saved now. I'm not like intentionally sinful. I mean that, yes, I was a sinner and now I'm saved by Jesus, but I wasn't like a full-fledged, like unrepenting, you know, lost soul. I never left the faith, even though in middle school it was, I will say it was definitely hard to be bold for Jesus, I guess you could say. Like, it was really hard to, and in some way, I've never had a problem with being bold for Jesus. It's just with all the peer pressure when it comes to middle school, it's like, you know, all your friends want to be cool, and it's like, if you're not cool with them, then you're just like an outcast, and you don't want to be an outcast. Nobody ever wants to be an outcast, but it's like in middle school, it's just the pressure from every degree. Like, you get 360-degree pressure from everybody. And so it was a bit harder for me in middle school, but then in high school, it's like every year God would just continue helping me be more bold for him. But anyways, so that's my testimony. Now that I've kind of introduced myself, I know I'm seeing on my phone. This is like very real. Like, let me be very raw with you. This camera that I'm looking at, this is my iPad. This other camera that's closer to my face, this is my sister's iPad. This is my phone with voice memos, and I took notes on my MacBook. So, and I've got my Apple Watch. So I've got the Apple ecosystem, but that was thunder. But this is very raw. This is my upstairs, my mom's bedroom. Well, it was a bedroom that we use. It's just really hot up here. So when it's in the summer, we tend to go downstairs. But this is a chair for my sunroom. This is a plant from our living room. This is a table that I stole over there. So if I would show you the camera over there, there'd be an empty lamp, like just sitting on the floor. My iPad, to sit it up just right, I have a book, and then I have another notebook in between, like the case. So you're getting the very real, raw beginnings of what a podcast would look like, because I just don't have the financial stability yet. I am unemployed, but you know what? Jesus is still faithful, even in the unemployed. But a little testimony about this podcast. This podcast is called Jesus Talks. So a little backstory of how that actually got started. So I go to a small town church. It's a small local church. It is growing, praise you, Jesus. But I go to a small town church. I am one of the worship leaders. I am one of the youth people. So I've been in the church all my life. I haven't left the church. And by church, I mean, I haven't left the building. Like, I've literally been in there my whole life, but I also haven't left the body of Christ. Like, I've never left the faith, is what I mean by the church. So, like, when I say the church, yes, it is four corners to a building. But when I also mean the church, spiritually, I mean like the body of Christ. So like believers, people who believe in Jesus, I haven't left that. So I've been a Christian basically all my life. It's the only thing that I've ever known. This podcast name came out of a little kind of Bible study one-on-one chat. So as we've been growing this year, there was a new lady, her husband and her 3 kids that have came to church, and I'm not going to say names just to keep, privacy. She has just stepped into the faith. I mean, it's been years now, but she is more baby Christian than I have been. See, this is the difference. So like physically, yes, I am younger than a lot of people, but spiritually I've been with Jesus more than people. So when we say like I'm spiritually older than you, it doesn't mean that I'm like, it doesn't mean better. It doesn't mean I'm older than you and I can like choose things over you. It just means that I've known the Lord longer, or I've been in the faith longer. So I'm spiritually older than her. And so I've kind of been discipling and helping. And so has my friend. And we've all just been, and it's great. And even some of the things that she said, she's like helped me. She's changed my perspective on a lot of things too. So just back and forth conversation, talking about Jesus. And we were talking about, I was like, no, keep on like talking to me. I love telling you about Jesus. I love helping you grow, and I love growing with you. I was like, so continue the conversation. And she just says, oh, I love having these Jesus talks. And I went, because before this conversation with her, I had been praying, Lord, should I start a podcast? Lord, should I, do this? Because I've dealt with a lot of insecurity when it comes to like the camera and like my voice and like hearing myself talk. Like I just can't do it. I don't like it. She's like, I love having these Jesus talks. And I went, oh my goodness. Because when I heard that phrase, I can hear it 2 different ways. This is why I like this name so much. And the way that God just kind of brought it into my mind and my perspective is because you could read it 2 ways. You could say we're having Jesus talks. So we're talking about Jesus, or you can do comma in between. Jesus, comma, talks. So when I read it, it's like, yes, we're having Jesus talks, but if you listen close enough, and if you keep your eyes on Jesus long enough and focus your attention on him, then Jesus talks. Like he will speak to us. And so I thought that was incredible to do for like a podcast, is because we're going to be talking, I'll have guests on the show and we'll be having Jesus talks, like talking about Jesus. But through these episodes, I know that Jesus will also speak. And so that's why like the intro you heard at the beginning is like, Jesus Talks is more than a, discussion. It's transformation. It's something that's active. It's real. And it's like, so if you just invite him in, just see when Jesus speaks, watch him move. And so that's kind of how like this podcast name came about, is that I really want to have these Jesus talks, but I want Jesus to speak to you. So when you're listening to this, I don't want it to just be like a conversation and I'm just talking the whole time, which I know I am, but like I want Jesus to speak through me, and I want you to hear Jesus speak. So anything that I say, anything that I do, like I pray this all the time. Everything that I say, Lord, everything that I do, everywhere that I go, everyone I come in contact with, like everything in my life, let it point back to you, Jesus. Like speak through me, like move through me, like let people see you in me. Like don't let it be me, let it be you. And so that's kind of how this name came about, because, you know, I just feel like God was speaking to me and saying, use my voice, because now it's time for Jesus to talk. We've been given a voice for a reason, and we might as well glorify Jesus with it. So that's kind of how Jesus Talks came to be. I will say the main goal. So I kind of wanted to give a main goal and like the point of every. I always tell kids at church, and I do it with sign language. I say to everything, there's a Jesus point. So with everything that I do on the podcast, everything that is said, everything that is done, everything we talk about should always have a Jesus point. So I feel like this podcast should just be like, get to know Jesus, like invite him in, like in every moment, even in the moments that we think that he doesn't know about. The moments that we don't even want to talk about, just to invite him in, and just to really, I have it in my notes here, just to really and authentically know him, like just to have a relationship with him. He's like a best friend. And what that means is literally what you do with a best friend, do it with him. If you want to be closer to him, spend time with him. And because it's time to stop being lukewarm, it's time to start with your relationship with Jesus. That's kind of how Jesus Talks came to be, and that's the goal of Jesus Talks, is just to know Jesus, be with him, like just to have Jesus is enough.
Jesus Talks is more than just your average discussion. It's about transformation. Whether it's in your workplace, on your school campus, or just around the kitchen table. Every moment is an opportunity to invite Jesus in and to see him move. So let's shift our everyday conversations to reflect his love, his truth, and his power. Because the truth is, Jesus is speaking. And everything changes when
Jesus Talks.
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 Jesus Talks.